Man, I got a lot to get off my chest. It's been over a week and a half. A ton of news has accumulated. But the biggest news has to be UFC 261. And what happened there was basically the main events, man, were huge. I mean, Kamaru Usman knocks Jorge Masvidal out in the second round. So many things happened. Usman now the pound for pound number one fighter in the UFC, surpassing Jon Jones, who dropped to number two. Jon Jones is inactive. Jon Jones reportedly wants $30 million to fight Francis Ngannou. But then he later tweets that he never said that. And right after that, he fired his management team. But, the public statements was that, they both separated on amicable terms. Jon Jones is still working out hard in the heavyweight division, trying to get his first fight. And, Ali Abdelaziz just did an interview. He's the manager. He's an iconic manager of Usman. And he said that Jon Jones should just talk to Dana during dinner time. And Dana White is a very easy guy to talk to. Abdelaziz feels it's very sad that Jon Jones has to air his dirty laundry on Twitter. And he doesn't need to do that. I mean, he's a legend. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. He should just sit with Dana White. They can negotiate. And if they don't agree with anything, that's fine. I mean, Dana White is not a bad guy. Let's get to my all these notes, man. There's so many things that went on. Rose Namajunas defeats Zhang Weili in a 1 minute head kick and becomes the strawweight champion for the second time. Zhang Weili was not happy with the stoppage, but everyone who watched the footage can see that it was a good stoppage. And yeah, Rose is the two-time strawweight champion, but the strawweight division is pretty new in the UFC. I'm sure in like 10 or 20 years, we're going to see some really good fighters emerge then. Valentina Shevchenko dominates Jessica Andrade, second round knockout. She's on a huge streak right now, like 7 straight wins, and defended the flyweight title 5 times already. It's unbelievable. And she lost to Amanda Nunes twice, but not by a knockout, by a close decision. People think they should fight a third time. Amanda Nunes has been absolutely dominant. She's going to fight again in August to defend her other belt. My God, a 2-time champion and on a 12-fight win streak in the UFC. That's absolutely insane. What else happened? UFC 261. Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman. The All-American Chris Weidman breaks his leg in the same way that Anderson Silva broke his leg in 2013. And it was also against Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman went to the hospital. His leg completely snapped and he fell. It was completely broken. Uriah Hall gets that win. All 5 fights on the main card were stoppages, were like TKOs. Uriah Hall's on a 4-fight win streak now as a result. It was an interesting story. Uriah Hall was the last guy to fight Anderson Silva, and then Chris Weidman was the first guy to beat Anderson Silva. Uriah Hall was the last person to beat Anderson Silva. And these two fought 10 years ago in another promotion. Chris Weidman stopped Uriah Hall's winning streak. They were set to face again. This time Uriah Hall wins, but he didn't even throw a punch. The first kick was by Chris Weidman. He breaks his leg immediately. Very hard kick to the shin. 17 seconds. The other fight was Anthony Smith defeated a very strong young contender Jimmy Crute, TKO. Basically, Anthony Smith did a really good calf kick on Jimmy Crute, breaking his leg. So KO, TKO, TKO, 5 fights. Very short. What else happened in the undercard? I know some other stuff that happened in the undercard. Dwight was about to submit, but he won by surviving the final minute. Dwight Grant, he won by split decision. He was about to submit near the end. Brendan Allen, there's a guy who made someone tap, and he was really good too. The first fight was Arlene Carnelosi, women's strawweight, versus a Chinese person, Na Liang, TKO knockout to begin. Unbelievable. I mean, there was a very huge fight. Tristan Connolly, a Canadian fighter, lost by decision, which is kind of sad. But yeah, pretty good main event, UFC 261. Yeah, and this, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this was in front of 15,000 fans, 90% of them not wearing masks in Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah, so let's go over some news before I go back to UFC 261. Gaethje broke Usman's nose last year before Jorge Masvidal's first fight. I wrote down 1.3 million buys. Jake Paul's Thriller event claims to have made that amount. Dana White disagrees with it and says they are lying their asses off. Stephen A. Smith comes out, calls Ben Askren a fat slob, and says that Ben Askren didn't come out in shape and lost. Yeah, so yeah, sad to see Ben Askren lose, but you know, he got a good payday. A lot of shit happened with Jake Paul. Jake Paul was in the arena for UFC 261. Daniel Cormier, broadcaster, went up to him and told him not to mention his name. Jake Paul subsequently challenges DC to a boxing fight. DC rebuts and said he wants to fight Jake Paul in an MMA fight, and he would destroy Jake Paul in an MMA fight. Of course, Jake Paul declines the MMA fight. Jake Paul's only interested in boxing. Jake Paul challenges Kamaru Usman to a boxing fight. Of course, Usman does not agree to it. Usman is an MMA champion. Jake Paul's getting a huge amount of buzz for what he did to Ben Askren a couple of weeks ago in the Thriller event. So Dana White said that Colby Covington is next against Kamaru Usman. However, Kamaru Usman and manager Ali Abdelaziz are not too keen on letting Colby Covington fight again. Late 2019, Usman basically knocked Colby Covington out, broke his jaw. Colby felt like Usman faked a few eye pokes and a groin shot, and is not satisfied with the referee calling off the fight when Usman was destroying him. He wants a rematch, and Colby really wants it, and many people don't feel he deserves it because all he did was beat an aging, losing Tyron Woodley 1 year later, and he reportedly declined fights against Leon Edwards and Gilbert Burns. Ali Abdelaziz and Usman want to fight someone who deserves it, and Usman, who just fought, wants to fight again on June 12th pay-per-view. June 12th pay-per-view is already kind of stacked. I mean, it's got Marvin Vettori versus Israel Adesanya for the middleweight title. That was supposed to go to Robert Whittaker, who's on a 3-fight winning streak, but Robert Whittaker cannot turn around that quickly, so Marvin Vettori accepted. Usman wants to fight Michael Chiesa, who's on a 4-fight win streak. Leon Edwards is on an 8-fight win streak, but he and a no contest. But he's going to be fighting Nate Diaz on July 10th. Of course, if Leon Edwards wins, he deserves the title fight. Of course, 10-fight undefeated streak, and you're going to give the title shot to Colby Covington. Dana White already said that Colby Covington is next, but I think he said that because he thought Jorge Masvidal had a chance of beating Usman. Jorge got knocked out for the first time in his career in his 50th fight. Jorge Masvidal did an interview saying that he thought about retiring shortly afterwards, but then he wants to get back into the game. He wants to fight again this year, but he doesn't know what he wants to do right now to come back. He talked a lot of smack about Usman for the months leading up, saying once he gets a full training camp, he will destroy Usman. Of course, Usman called Masvidal out and wanted to destroy Masvidal for all the shit that he's been saying over the past year. He said he would finish his ass, and he did exactly that. What was so interesting about it was once Masvidal woke up from that knockout, he paid respect to Usman. Usman was very respectful to Masvidal, and Masvidal was very respectful to Usman too. He said Usman won fair and square. Of course, Masvidal will go back to the drawing board. Valentina Shevchenko dominated Jessica Andrade on the ground and then TKO'd her very quickly. New fight added June 4th UFC Fight Night. You got Rosenstrike versus Augusto Sakai. Rosenstrike is on a 2-fight losing streak right now after losing to Ngannou and losing to I forgot who he lost to. Who did he lose to recently? Rosenstrike. Oh, I gotta look it up. I just typed Rosenstrike on Wikipedia and it pulls up Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Oh, he lost to Cyril Gane. Right. In February. And what many call a very boring pay-per-view. He's not on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Ngannou, knocked out Junior Dos Santos, and then lost to Cyril Gane. But he'll be fighting Augusto Sakai. Augusto Sakai lost to Alistair Overeem a couple of months, a while back. So what else? This is going on a little bit long. Chris Weidman said he did an interview before the leg break. He said he feels like he has 4 fights left in his career and he wants to become champion and then defend it once before retiring. And some commentators said it was not a good thing for him to say that because, when you say that you're near your end, your motivation level isn't going to be that great. But Weidman, of course, broke his knee. He said he's out for 8 weeks. He can't walk, but he left the hospital. He said it would take 6 to 12 months before he can actually train again. So who knows where his career is headed. He's turning 37, not young anymore. And with a broken leg, can he really go again? I think he needs to find a new career because he was the middleweight champion. He defended his title 3 times. Think of the great parts of your career and move on. I think that's the best thing to do. So what else happened? Yeah. Jorge said he did cry a little bit, like after losing. He didn't know, when you lose a fight like that, like Usman was smart not to beat him when he was down. He's paid respect to him. That was his 50th fight. Yeah, Jorge Masvidal will be back. I mean, he's one of the most popular fighters. He did a lot of leg kicks to Usman, but Usman just took him out, man. Usman has 14 straight wins in the UFC now, undefeated in the UFC. And Anderson Silva is 16. Usman knows he's not young anymore. He's going to turn 34, and he wants to be active. Right now, he can take on anybody and keep his streak going. He wants to fight in June. He fought in February, April, June. Could he fight 5 times in a year, making him the most? He said he's the most active fighter. All these guys in the welterweight division, like Stephen Thompson, Masvidal, Colby Covington, they're just sitting on their asses, not wanting to fight. And, I don't know, man. Usman can talk to Dana White and ask that Colby Covington do a few more fights to earn his title shot. I think that's a smart decision to do that. Yeah. What else is going on right now? Jon Jones. Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. Ali Abdelaziz just released information saying that Khamzat wants to fight. Khamzat Chimaev, who was recovering from COVID, he wants to fight in August. But, there are people, Neil Magny, Colby Covington, Robbie Lawler, Jorge Masvidal are options should they accept. And, reports indicate that last year all of them kind of declined Khamzat because Khamzat is a scary guy. Tyron Woodley has been released. Tyron Woodley was a former welterweight champion, but on a 4-fight losing streak, age 39, nowhere to go, is over. What hit the news today was Diego Sanchez. He pulled out of his fight against Cowboy Cerrone. They were going to have a fight on May 8th, but Diego pulled out. A very complicated situation. His manager is very cocky. His manager went to the UFC meeting and basically chastised the entire room for supposed biased commentary against Diego Sanchez. People make fun of his unorthodox way of teaching and training, which supposedly resulted in the losses of Diego Sanchez. But Diego Sanchez likes him as a manager and coach. And yeah, that was recorded last year. That meeting, that outburst in the meeting was recorded and released today to the social media. So the coach of Diego Sanchez doesn't like the UFC, and also in Fight Island last year was actually noted that the plane left without Diego Sanchez and his team. Like, I suspect it might have been done intentionally because of the how much of an asshole the coach was, but probably not. Probably they forgot. I doubt that they forgot, but maybe they thought they did that to teach them a lesson. But Diego Sanchez is kind of a legend in the game. I mean, he's fought like for like I don't know how long. Man. It must have been like over 15 years in the UFC. He wanted to have his final fight with Cowboy Cerrone, but recently the coach requested all the medical documentation that UFC had on Diego Sanchez, and then the UFC was a little bit suspicious of that action. So they asked Diego Sanchez, is he ready to compete? And Diego Sanchez responded and said he's no doctor. He has not had his brain checked out, so he couldn't answer that question. And because he couldn't answer that question, the UFC decided based on those actions, and they probably thought Diego Sanchez's coach had something up his sleeve. He was trying to possibly sue the UFC for letting Diego at that age, in that condition, fight. You know, why else would they request the medical documentation, right? So that resulted in Diego Sanchez being let go. Now they're finding a replacement fighter, and surprise, surprise, Kevin Holland has raised his hand. He wants to fight. And right now I'm waiting. I'm checking Twitter, checking the news to wait what the contracts are going to be given and whether Kevin Holland can pull that off. I mean, Kevin Holland weighed himself on the scale. He's 196, and he's usually fighting in the 185 division. And Cowboy Cerrone was planning to fight in the 170 division, but Kevin Holland said he can probably do a catchweight fight at 175. He can cut 20 pounds in 10 days. Kevin Holland is a warrior. If he does get this fight on May 8th, that would be his 8th fight since mid-May of last year. I don't think any other UFC fighter in the modern history of UFC has done 8 fights within 365 days. So that's absolutely incredible. We're waiting to hear the news on that. In 1 day or so, there's going to be Dominic Reyes versus this up-and-comer light heavyweight, Jiri Prochaska. Can't pronounce his name properly. I don't really know a lot of the people on the card here, but featherweight bout will be featured too with 37-year-old Cub Swanson, who's had a very long career with the UFC as well. So that's going to be huge. TJ Dillashaw got injured, so that fight is off. The main event is off. TJ Dillashaw versus Corey Sandhagen is off, so they have to find someone new. Who knows what's going to happen? That May 8th event is scheduled to have a lot of interesting matches. Neil Magny is going to be fighting. Diego Ferreira, lightweight, will be fighting. Yeah, that's about it. And then the final week, the week after that, is Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler for the title. The lightweight title. That's going to be a huge one. So yeah, that's one, and that's almost 2 weeks of news that I had bottled up. So hope you guys listen. Please leave a comment. Please do whatever you can to help me out. If you enjoyed it, peace.